Okay, so this is the new Friday chat, and we are talking about proxy violence and malicious accusations. We're phrasing it like that because it's more accurate and because Mumble 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 doesn't like it, if you get what I mean.
But the word that you might be talking about is the word false. Is that correct?
Oh, I might have been talking about the word false. There's a lot of words you could use in that sentence, and I can neither confirm nor deny any of them because of YouTube's strange policies on words. Do you want to go through what you were just telling me about being attacked?
Well, when you mean proxy violence, just for the listeners, proxy violence is when people try and encourage other people to be violent. So if someone doesn't like you for whatever reason, instead of being violent themselves, they try and encourage other people to be violent against you. About accurate?
Yeah, it also encompasses basically any attempt to stir up a mob against somebody, but in a way it can also be trying to get people to commit suicide. So it can be basically you're outsourcing your violence. You're trying to get somebody else to commit violence on your behalf, and that is usually a gang of people. For example, if you watch police interview tapes, they're really, really interesting, and you actually see a lot of these manipulation tactics. For example, there was a woman who tried to say that a gang of men broke into her house and killed her partner. Well, not her partner so much as the man she was stalking. And she was she was absolutely insane. She did not behave like a sane person. But basically, what she would do is she would try to distract the police by talking on random tangents. But when nailed down, she would basically say that after they exposed a lot of her lies, she said that these men and a woman a man and a woman actually it was, broke into the house while she was there and killed the man she was stalking. And she basically said, she was saying things like, oh, the woman was the violent one, the woman was the instigator. So she was projecting her own actions onto this made up woman who didn't exist, and basically trying to make it sound like this made up woman was the one who killed the guy she was stalking. And then in court, her story changed again, and she was saying that it was self-defense, and he was abusive, he was violent, he was an abuser of younglings, and he was all this sort of stuff. She was doing it in this really sort of, I don't want to reveal this information, but you're forcing me sort of way. She was trying to make out that she was preserving his
We just lost connection with a human for a second there, so I imagine he'll be coming back shortly. But yeah, this is something that is not uncommon. Stories about proxy violence, stories about people lying. Wow, he's back.
hello.
There you go.
Am I back? Oh, damn, I thought everyone was just being very quiet. How much of what I said did you get? Lou? Or was it him who was out?
You were talking about the woman's court case.
Right. Did you get all of it? Did I just stop speaking just now, or was Blue speaking? And I'll quit and
Blue,
rejoin.
that's right. I can hear you. Blue started talking, and then he left, and you came back, and it's all gone a bit song, I think.
Right, I have no idea where I cut out, or if I cut out there. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to restart my phone because
Do you want to take over for a minute, Blue?
okay, back now. Blue, what were you talking about?
Well, we're having some serious connection problems. Discord sometimes has these kinds of issues. I know Saturday afternoon is a very, very busy time. A lot of servers have these kinds of talks and these kinds of events, so a lot of times it does get overloaded. Although there are much bigger servers that don't have problems like this, it just seems kind of strange that we're having such a big problem on multiple people's ends, because I'm having some weird issues too. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You did quit and rejoin a bit. I think it's possibly just because larger servers have a lot more people paying for them and they get a lot more bandwidth and stuff like that. We don't really have a lot of people like using Nitro on the server or anything like that. So, we're kind of low priority. So we're probably, dropping out a bit more. But it seems to be okay now. Anyway, back to proxy violence and malicious accusations. Blue, you were saying something about them?
This is something that happened to me. I mean, anyone that knows me and watches my YouTube channel and has watched these podcasts in the past, they may be familiar with the story. And if you're not, I'll give you a brief update. Or not update, but just a quick up to speed. A woman attacked me in LA and she stabbed me. She stabbed me in the arm and she stabbed me in the neck. I had to go to hospital and the doctor told me that I almost died. When I got back to my apartment after the hospital, there was a woman, a female neighbor, was standing outside with a group of men, and she accused me of, "Oh, you like punching girls in the face. You attacked her. It's your fault." Even though she attacked me and she stabbed me, she was trying to make it sound like I was the one to blame. And she had all these guys around her, and I think she was trying to get these guys to try and beat me up, like to try and hurt me. Even I just got back from the hospital from being stabbed, she was trying to get me attacked and beaten up because I'm a man and the woman who stabbed me was a woman. And I couldn't believe it was happening. But then I realized just how scary it is. Men really aren't allowed to defend themselves at all if a woman attacks you. Even if you get stabbed in the neck, if you're male and your attacker is female, other people will take the woman's side, no matter what. I mean, it's this ridiculous blind spot we have in society. It's a completely ridiculous double standard. And I bet you if it happened to her boyfriend or her father or her son, or it became inconvenient for her, she wouldn't be saying that. So it's just to me a very dumb, anti-intellectual mindset to have, where if there's any altercation where a woman attacks a man and a man defends himself, the man is automatically wrong because he's a man, even though he was stabbed, even though he was hurt. And the scary thing to me wasn't just over when the incident was over with the woman that attacked me and stabbed me. Like, once that was over, the situation was done. But then the next day in my own home, the thought that one of my own neighbors would try and get me even more hurt, someone I lived next to. And I kept thinking, like, I was defending our street, our apartment. I mean, this woman who stabbed me was in her car saying she's going to get out of the car and break in and kill me and kill one of the children living in the building. But even that didn't matter. One of my own neighbors, who I defended, get me beaten up the next day. And I still haven't.
I think the reason that happened is basically because when there's an altercation between a man and a woman, people assume that the woman is defending herself and the man is the aggressor. we've seen this a lot in like the BBC experiments and things like that. People just assume that the man is in the wrong. So if a woman just randomly slaps a man, everyone assumes that he did something to her, even if it's totally random and nobody knows then the guy doesn't know her and she doesn't know him. She can just walk up to him in a bar and slap him, and people will assume that he did something to her, like he cheated on her, stuff like that. It's really toxic and poisonous.
How much of that, what you just said, which I think is very true, how much of that do you think is social conditioning, and how much of that do you think is kind of like hardwired psychologically?
I think it's a bit of both. Usually when we talk about questions that are social and questions that are cultural, questions that are social and questions that are genetic, it comes down to a bit of both, because there's the genetic need to protect women, but then there's also cultural understanding and there's cultural knowledge and there's upbringing and stuff like that layered on top of that, and one can reinforce the other. We can break that social conditioning, but it's very difficult to do so. But considering that this is basically the case in every single country, I think there's a strong case that this is at least partially genetic. But that does not mean that we can't overcome it, because genetics are not destiny. They'll hint you towards a particular path, but they won't necessarily, saying it's hardwired is kind of misleading, because we can change our wiring. We're not computers. We can rejig our thinking. I mean, there are people in here who are recovering gynocentric believers. People who used to think that the wage gap was real, that men were the only aggressors and women were the only victims and things like that, and who thought that women need to be defended constantly, and they can't do anything for themselves and stuff like that. This interlocking web of stereotypes and sexism and stuff like that, where you just have the blinkers on. But if you take the blinkers off and you work on thinking, in a more rational way, then you can rejig your mind to think of the whole situation very differently. It's like even though you're still you still got that wiring to be a white knight, and you feel like you have to protect women, you can overcome that and think, hold on, she doesn't necessarily need protecting, and she isn't necessarily the person in the right. If you know what I mean.
Sorry, guys, I'm going to duck out. This is going to be a difficult couple of hours. Not the talk, just work based. Speak to you later.
All right, keep on trucking. Blue, what do you think about that? Blue? Oh, he's gone. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Whoever's got their video on, could you turn it off, please? Because I can't seem to get out of this. Right, sorry. Okay, can anyone hear me? Been having some weird problems today. So yeah, Blue, what do you think about what I said, or did you hear any of it? All right then, I can't hear you. You can't hear me. Blue, I can hear you typing.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, we're having all kinds of issues today. I'm going in and out, both on being muted and not muted, so I don't know what it is, but yeah, hopefully we if this gets through. I think you're right in that it's both social and psychological. Like it's both something that is nature and nurture, because people grow up and this is what they see happening all the time. And I think it starts very young. This preference for women starts very young. I mean, think about ladies first, and letting girls go before boys. Like even this happened even in school, even in elementary school, like third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. When we were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, letting the girls go first to lunch, letting the girls go first to the playgrounds, and it's something that forces is something that you see as a child, and it kind of almost imprints on your brain. But at the same time, you have to ask, well, how come? And feminists might say, well, this is chivalry and this is gender roles and these are societal expectations of patriarchy, but they don't answer, why does patriarchy exist in the first place? Not that I think patriarchy is actually responsible for those things existing, but why do things like chivalry exist in the first place? Why do these social differences exist in the first place? Because in almost, like you said, any country in the world, any society in the world, that's what happens. Going back to ancient times. Even in times when you had a society where women weren't allowed to vote, like ancient Rome, you still had customs of giving women the more comfortable seats, letting women do something first, letting women go first. It's like we had this thing where women are treated like children, because that's not quite true, but we have to be softer to women. We have to treat women more nicely. We have to go kind of easy on them. And feminists say this is sexist because it's saying that women are less capable. And I actually agree with them on that, because I think that's true. It is treating women like they are less capable. And that's why we don't take women's violence seriously. And that's why when a woman is trying to commit violence against a man, or encouraging someone else to commit violence against a man or against anybody, it's not taken as seriously. And this is reflected in court systems. This is reflected in the prison sentencing gap. This is reflected all the time. I see people on Reddit posting about experiences in high school or secondary school or primary school where a girl and a boy would both do something, and the boy would get a detention and the girl received no punishment. It's like something that you learn as a child, but it's something that also does seem to be somewhat, you said, not hardwired because it can change, but almost like an instinct that people have.
I do think there's an instinct to protect women, and on top of that, we are building a social structure which gives deference to them as well. I think that's the real root of this, is that deference. And something that people really, really don't realize is how bad that is for you. If everyone is giving you deference, then you are becoming a weak person. You are becoming a person who doesn't need to do anything. You are becoming a person who just doesn't fulfill a purpose, but is considered special just by default. Imagine generations upon generations upon generations upon generations upon generations of that. Imagine how weak that would make you culturally, how just flimsy it would make you mentally, just to think, you're special, but you're just special by default, and you don't have to do anything.
I've always thought that this is why, ladies first. Such a harmful thing to teach children. 5, 6 years old, when there's really not much difference between boys and girls. Teaching them this group of people goes first because of how they're born. And then things like, oh, it's rude to ask a woman her age. Or we give women menus without the prices on it, which you still sometimes read about. It's encouraging this idea that I'm a certain way because of how I was born. And a woman could interpret that, as a man could, as being both superior and inferior in how they're treated. Getting these is of going first, but why? Because I'm better or because I'm weaker? And I just think it's a very harmful thing to do.
Yeah.
Because kids don't really understand. Like, I remember 10 years ago, I was at a local tennis court, and I saw there was I guess a summer camp or something going on with young kids, maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, playing tennis. And the coach was saying, remember the 2 rules. 1, always clean up after yourself. Number 2, let's go first. The kids repeating it. And these kids were young. I mean, they were little kids, 7, 8, something like that. And already they're learning that, oh yes, there's this
Hello.
difference between.
Hello. See, Blue, I think you're going too far away.
You're
Okay.
kind of echoing a lot there. Is your
What about that?
speaker
We all
right
are
next to your
echoing.
mic? Hello? Right. You were saying, Hunter? Blue? Blue, you were talking about school?
I was just saying, this is something that I've noticed since school, preferential treatments, and then a girl and a boy doing exactly the same thing, and a girl basically gets no consequences at all.
Hmm.
And
You know,
that was normal, and I often see Reddit about that.
You know, I've just been contacted by a transgender secondary school student who is writing an article about their experiences for the site. And they've got some really, really, really interesting experiences, because they transitioned right in the middle of school. So they've got the boys' side and they've got the girls' side as well. And they've got so many interesting things to say, and I don't want to spoil any of it, but it's really, really, really good. And I think that I almost should have waited for well, I didn't know Blue was going to start talking about schools, but if we want to do a schools episode right after that goes live, then that might be a really good thing to do, because there's so much social commentary in that. It's like, I've only read half of it so far, and it's really, really, really interesting how the teachers will basically punish the boys for things the girls are doing, and when they get called out for that, the teacher will be like, "Oh, just shuffle away from the boy," instead of, "Okay, you get the detention instead." It's some serious double standards there. I mean, it's part of the reason that I stopped tracking double standards in feminism and in gender relations and things. It's just because everything's a double standard. It's like, you can't bookmark everything or tag everything as a double standard when everything's a double standard. You just have everything in one folder. Do you have any other story? Do you have any stories from school? Anyone here?
I could bring up one. So this was in senior school, and this chick started a fight on me and started fully wailing on me. And the teacher saw it and took me off into a room and chatted to me about it and basically said, "Oh, she probably just fancies you," and nothing was done about it.
It's so incredibly toxic. Do you want to, if you could write that up for the next school stories, that would be really good, because that's turned into one of our longest running series on the site. They seem to it seems to be everywhere. Like everyone with any history in a school seems to have a story about this sort of thing. Like I mean, I've told mine before, where like you'll have a much bigger boy picking on you and beating you, and then the teacher will come along and put you both in detention, or like make you shake hands with the bully when you haven't even thrown a punch or done anything.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I've got another one, but I mean, it's hard to call it a double standard because I never really reported it. I'm not sure that any teachers are aware of it, but there was a girl. I was probably in year 10, year 11, and there was a girl that was in the sixth form at the school, and she would like regularly grab my ass like that. There was a regular thing that I just didn't know anything that I could do about it, because obviously you can't slap her, because then, especially she was super popular, so I'd have been in shit if I'd slapped her or done anything to retaliate. Probably would have been in shit if I'd even shouted at her. And then, obviously, with my past experience, I wasn't going to go and tell a teacher about it, because I probably just got left out of the room, because like she was one of those chicks that everyone fancied. So yeah, that was a bit of a toxic one.
Well, I've surprisingly never had my ass grabbed by a woman, but I have had my ass grabbed by an old skeezy guy in a bar. But yeah.
I did. I'll say, working in LA, I worked in restaurants. I did serving, all that kind of stuff. I had that usually by drunk middle-aged women. And at first, I was always thinking, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to lose my job. And then I realized, you know what? I'm going to say something anyway. And I always did. And they'd always like apologize, look embarrassed. But yeah, it's just like, and the way they look embarrassed is almost as if like they genuinely didn't understand why they were doing something wrong when they did it. And then they quickly realized, oh my God, because they've never been told it before. Like no one's ever said, no, you can't do that. That's actually, that counts too. It's not different for you. It's still wrong. So it's something that seems to be ingrained from a very early age. It's just so normalized.
Yeah, I actually.
I'm glad you had a positive I'm glad you had positive experiences there. Actually, can anyone hear you? Because it looks like I'm muted now. That's very weird.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. Well,
I had the same problem where it showed I was muted when I wasn't. So it's a connection thing. It's happening to all of us.
All right. Well, it's very interesting that you got positive responses, as in they didn't run to the manager or anything, especially in LA. Like I expect that's Karen Central there. So yeah. Well, did you ever any of the guys do it to you?
Yeah, Orange, I don't know whether you heard him. He asked you if you've ever had any of the guys do it to you.
Yeah, sorry. I guess maybe my sound's not working, but no, actually, I have not had that. And there's a very big gay population in Los Angeles, and I knew many gay men. Some of them were coworkers, some of them were neighbors, some of them were friends. But nope, I never had that issue with a man.
Oh, that's interesting. It might just be that men are trained not to do it.
That's actually not totally true. Let me change that. There was one. I was an extra on a film set. It's actually International Falls. You can see it on my IMDb. It's a movie that came out. It's like a real studio movie, and I was one of the extras. And there was a male director who was very handsy with me and another extra, another younger, kind of in shape guy. And the first time he did it, I was like, that's weird. And then the second time he did it, I kind of spun around and said, stop doing that. I didn't even have to say what I was talking about. He must have understood, because he didn't do it again. And it was just stuff like he was showing us where we were going, and he'd put his hand on our shoulder, or he would like kind of push us, but kind of guide us and kind of touch us on the back unnecessarily. and I told him stop doing that, and
Oh, that's
immediately he knew
interesting.
exactly what I was talking about, and he stopped. So the fact
He
that
wasn't Italian, was he?
no, it wasn't. It was definitely in an inappropriate way because the way he stopped doing it without even asking first is it was obvious because I talked to the other actor after that, and he had a very similar version of what happened. So yeah, that's what that was, and that's very normal.
I mean, that sounds kind of predatory. The fact that he knew straight away what you were talking about, like it's almost
Right.
like he was testing your boundaries. And like, if you're one of those guys that sort of, oh, I better not upset him. I'm not going to enforce my boundaries. Then he'll realize, oh, maybe I can push it further.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah,
But no,
that's what it felt.
I think you're definitely onto something with the whole that women aren't socialized to realize that some of the things they do, like the example you gave, the like sort of sexual assaulting people like that, I think is definitely a thing. And I think just more broadly that there are a lot of toxic behaviors that women engage in that they possibly don't even realize they're doing anything wrong because nobody's ever told them.
Hello.
Hello, did you want to say something, Hunter?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to share a story regarding hiring right now in various places. Like you can see the difference in hiring. Actually, like I'm a software engineer from India, basically. So Aiden is also with me. Like we are a group of software engineers. Now you can see after this lockdown, tremendous discrimination on hiring is happening. Like we have 2,000 posts of men applying, and like 200 women applied, 200 women got selected, and 2,000 boys were rejected. Tremendous discrimination is going on here in India in companies like Google, Microsoft, Swiggy, and they are clearly hiding it. Like 2020 in lockdown, like we have seen posts on LinkedIn. I'm seeing like boys crying in college, engineering colleges here in India. Such a high discrimination is going on.
I think
I
I got
actually
most of that.
did a video. I saw a story in India. I forget what city it was, but there was a 21-day lockdown, like a quarantine. But people were allowed out from 1 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon to buy food, but only women were allowed out. And they were saying, well, women can buy food for their families and their male relatives. But Indian men were saying, well, what if you're a single man who lives alone? You can't get food. And they literally left men to starve. I mean, India just seems like it's absolutely crazy how extreme and toxic feminism is. Why do you think it's gotten so
High,
bad?
high levels, really high levels. Huge toxicity. Like I'm seeing discrimination. Huge, huge levels, man.
Yeah,
It's
I think India's a really weird one because it seems like feminism's going nuts, but at the same time, it seems like men's issues are getting a lot more attention over there.
No, you
At the
see,
same time,
like now I'm talking about discrimination at jobs at high level. You will see discrimination in laws at high level. You will see discrimination in reservations. Like there is something called women empowerment where they will give direct reservations, direct quotas to women, direct tax reductions, everything direct.
yeah, like I've seen all that, but I mean, I maybe I'm wrong about this, but I get the impression that the men's rights movement over there has got a lot more traction. Would I be right on that, or no?
Obviously, like we have got so many suicides, we have got so many fake cases. Like in police station, if you see, really nearly like in a day, 10 men died here in a day. If you go to
Uh,
a police station in India, you can see nearly 10 men died. And if you look
Very
at the number of
strange.
fake cases in India, like around 90% of them are fake. In fact, only the fake cases are shown. Media doesn't even cover those fake cases. Like first, the cases shown of rape, immediately it is shown like, oh, India is full of rape, full of rape. But later it's proven to be false. Media doesn't give any coverage. I can give you proof of so many cases.
Oh no,
If
I believe you. I've seen it myself, and I've seen the studies that show how bad false rape accusations are in India. I've seen a lot of stuff about it, so I definitely believe you.
How do you think most men in India feel about this? Like, do most men agree with you? Do most men experience this? Like, are most men aware of this?
actually we have waken up, it was an eye opener for many. In fact, we know how the media is also biased in hiding this stuff, not covering.
And how do you think most women in India feel about these things going on?
If you talk about it, well, they're gonna label you woman hater. Direct.
Yeah, that happens everywhere. I mean,
I,
almost
I have
everybody here
They will
has
even
been accused of.
some.
I was going to say I have seen a lot of women in India speaking out about it. It does seem. I mean, like I could be wrong on this, but it does seem like the men's rights movement is a lot bigger and a lot more organised and a lot more effective over there, and just gets a lot more traction in general. I think because maybe it's more of a traditionalist country. I think a lot more people are willing to sort of speak out.
Hello. Like, yeah, I'm seeing like even at hiring level, like, come on, man. Like in for Google hiring in this Bangalore, we saw the results like 5 out of 200 on the first round scoring, and boys who selected more so scored more than 198 out of 200, like 198 in Google's hiring round. It was so difficult from IIT. They were rejected. I mean, like, how can you be so sexist? Like, it was like really like so sad to see them. Thousands of boys were rejected, and girls who took 5 out of 200 were selected. Like,
Yeah, and then those same girls will be complaining that they can't find a guy that's on their level and earning as much as them, and men need to step up.
yeah, they will say that, and it's so sad. Like, in fact, I don't know what to say. Laws are biased. More reservations now. They are in now. They are being 50% reservation. All it this buses and transports and all. First, it was already 30 to 40. Now they are further plans to bring reservation only for women in parliament as well. 40%.
Ask
I'm not
you,
sure about.
tribe are protected under law, and sons can't take property and basically have no rights. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, there is a law, property law. Like women can claim the law, like properties from inherit. Like it should have a two generations. One, like your grandparents should have owned it. So parents must give it to a part of it to women. Like it should be shared. Actually, they can give it fully also to women. I mean, if a woman, like again, there's one awesome case called Dowry Act. If you see, there are two. It's very complicated law. It has two clauses. First is like if a woman has to pay a man something. Actually, that's a bribe. And moreover, second clause is like if she feels that she is tortured in a way now, she can put a case on people and mention anyone, the family of any person that is living of his husband. For example, she can mention even 3 years, 5-year-old, 3 to 4-year-old babies also are mentioned in the case and put in jail. Google Dowry Act of India. There will be two main clause. Maybe I'll share that. Hello,
Get him dead, did you say?
Dowry Act. Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry, yeah, yeah, just about. I just wanted you to say something about she can get him killed.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, like if they saw you talking about men's rights now, like one or two were killed actually.
Yeah, I have heard of men being killed over dowries and things like that in India. I've also heard that a large part of their supposedly very high rape
See,
statistics are
dowry
to do with.
is given only for those men, those who are like highly and at a high level. See, men who are earning at high levels or at power levels, they get money from women to marry because competition is more.
I see.
So only they get. But the law is made for all women. So any even if you don't take a money from woman, she can tomorrow put a case of dowry on you. So basically, like if you're going for a divorce with woman in India, domestic violence act and dowry case is going to come on you by default. You are dead unless the woman doesn't want to apply it on you.
Hmm.
It's going to be a nightmare if you are married in India and trying to get a divorce. Like you will end up in jail for sure unless your wife is like good on you.
That
Guarantee.
sounds horrifying. I've heard that they
In
can
fact, like
also.
if you are traveling somewhere in the bus, and if you are near a woman and she puts a case on you, na, like if no one near once comes to your support, like you be there, that's enough. She can put a case on you. In fact, she doesn't even need to put a case on you. She can just in her social media just put hashtag me too. Cops will come running and they will register an FIR and catch the person if she puts the photo of that man. This works on Twitter, Facebook. There's a special team called She Team. A man will be put in jail immediately and he has to give proof whether later the session will go on. Powerful men don't come and get into this. Those who have rich and those who have policemen in their pockets. Normal people like you and me, finished.
Yeah, human. Are you familiar with what happened when the coverture laws were overturned?
When the what?
Hello?
When
Laws?
the coverture laws were overturned.
Which
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. No, never mind. I was going to say like it's like an extreme version of that that's even worse. But yeah, never mind. I thought you knew about that.
All right. I might know what you mean, but I'm not sure. Hunter, could you maybe write some of this down? Because it's very, very interesting stuff. And we don't often hear a perspective on what's happening inside India. I mean, the last I've heard is that you can basically be arrested for rape retroactively if you back out of a marriage. Is that still true?
Yeah, that's fairly true. In fact, in fact, forget rape. Like even if you touch, there can be a case of molestation and harassment on you, and that's very hard to prove. Rape still needs some like medical things. The woman has to go through some medical procedures to prove it. They can go
It's
for harassment and molestation easily.
it's worse than that, isn't it? Though, because I've heard that a lot of women will just use a false accusation to try and get a guy that they want to marry her.
Uh,
Is
yeah,
that?
they do that. You can
Yeah,
see the site www.indiasons.com. Like it's the only site where like it's being saved. Rest of the sites are all getting removed by this media group.
yeah. I've definitely heard that. I've heard that they'll basically say, if you marry me, I'll drop the charges. But yeah.
Some will like if you pay them, they will also drop the charges. It's not just marriage.
Oh, so they use it for like extortion as well, basically.
Yeah, it's like extortion. Like I think I'll share you the news if you want of extortion. But this news channels won't cover it. Like only let me share one example. Like only news posts will come. See, whenever a crime is committed against men, like in India, no news channel will cover it. No live reporter will cover it. Only they will write a post.
Yeah, I am vaguely familiar with what's going on in India. I didn't know about the diversity quotas and that was getting really bad though. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
This
we
is
only
my
hear
friend
little.
in Tamil Nadu to fight the case for 12 years. Like I have pasted a link on men's rights. Like how like this case got huge news channel coverage 10 years ago. It took 10 years for the man to fight the case and win. And a woman didn't pay 15 lakhs, by the way. This is the only article that covers later his victory. That's it. I have put it on men's rights.
Thank you. It would be very, very interesting if you could write us up an article or something about this, because we hear very, very little out of India. We only hear very tiny little snippets about the false promise of marriage cases, which are, from what I gather, most of the rape statistics out there are made up of false promise to marriage and things like that. Like a huge, huge chunk of the stats is that.
Yeah, they did a study on false rape accusations in India, and it was like something like 70% of accusations were false. It was absolutely ridiculous.
No, the number is 98% in Delhi actually. In Chennai, it's around 95. The numbers are somehow like some people just jumped in and reduced their FIR cases. Like I have been to Rajamangalam police station. I know some police people, and this police station near some in Thithukudi police station. Some police stations I have checked. I cannot check all police stations, but
Do you have any data on that you can link?
See, I will ask the inspector and make sure. Like they actually don't want to show the FIRs, but I can show you the. I can send you private this thing, but are you going to publish it anywhere? Because India has a law that FIRs can't be exposed out. Actually, this has been abused a lot by women. They will
Oh, so basically, if you show me, I can't put it anywhere.
so they'll change the stats basically. Like you can go come to India and check police stations. Policemen will show the FIRs if you give them some little somehow like please them to show. No, they will show it, but
Because
you
I mean,
can.
I would have thought if you anything that you give me, if I publish it, I mean, I'm not living in India, so they can't really touch me.
They
That is
might be
what the
able to get a
problem.
hunter though.
That's what the problem is. Like I'm not making something up here. Like okay, I'll try to get it for you.
No,
But
I'm not saying you're making something up. It's just that, like, if somebody gives you a statistic and you want to verify it, don't you? And you want to be able to, so if you want to tell somebody else, then you can verify it to them. Like, I don't accept any statistics without some data to back them up.
true, you have 70%, right? Anyway,
Yeah. I mean,
okay, still better.
and yeah, like just to say, so I'm not calling you a liar or saying you're wrong or anything. It's just I wouldn't accept any statistics without having some kind of proof for them.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, you should also go and check. Correct. In fact, don't believe these pages or even this news media. Also, go yourself and check it. I did that. It took some hard work, but results will be astonishing. Just go yourself and check the things. I do that.
Well, yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Most people aren't willing to do the hard work. They'll just accept anything that goes along with what they want to think.
Yeah, is there any way? Do you have anything we could publish, Hunter? Because we would like to share what's going on there.
I'll try to get the Google results like of the hiring which was occurred like in these 2000 batches. Like they conducted some scores, and even some other companies conducted the hiring on Hacker Earth. I'll try to get you those scores clearly, and I'll mention you like all the stats are mentioned there.
All right, thank you very much. That would be very helpful.
Yep.
It's quite funny actually, because in the West we've kind of got a dual problem. We have the sort of discriminatory hiring practices where they're trying to hire women, but then at the same time, because of all the sexual harassment laws in the workplace that they're bringing in, places, sort of a lot of STEM places, they just don't want to hire women because they know that there's the risk of that happening, and also a lot of them have a lot of autistic guys that might just say the wrong thing, and then boom, there's a lawsuit. So there a lot of places are just reluctant to hire women. So it's sort of a dual effect.
Yeah, quite an
But like
interesting predicament.
like here I'm seeing like big companies are hiring women a lot. Like these big companies like Walmart, Google, Microsoft, Amazon especially. Like not Amazon is also doing it. Like small companies are not doing it because they have this problem and they don't have enough funds actually to like fight suit laws and suit case. You might be wrong or right about the small things, small companies who are like
Yeah, no, that's actually what the situation is like in a lot of Western countries. There, it is the big countries that are doing the sort of hiring as many women and minorities as they can, and then the bigger companies are the smaller companies are more reluctant to, especially hire women because of the lawsuits.
yeah, that's true even here also. And in fact, like the smaller companies pay you well also. It's not like that Google, Amazon, Microsoft only pays you well. They also pay same only, but they are not the more advertised or more famous.
Yeah, this is probably all the big companies that are spreading this stuff in India. It's like people are probably seeing it on the American films and things like that, where it's all hyper, like political and hyper SJW and stuff like that, and they think that America is just like that, and people are just like super SJW about everything there, and so they're possibly becoming super SJW themselves because of that, and they're trying to emulate it. At least that's my theory, but I don't know. Hunter might have a better one.
Hello, like I didn't get you clearly. Like,
Sorry. There's been a lot of that today. What I was saying was, I think those big companies going over into India with TV shows and films and stuff like that, and they're super SJW, they're super like feminist hiring practices and things like that. They might be spreading like a lot of the feminist, extreme feminist ideological problems that you're seeing there, and people on the ground might be trying to emulate like what they're seeing in the American TV shows that are incredibly preachy about this, and that might be why they're so extreme over there. But I'm not sure. Maybe
I wouldn't even use the qualifier extreme. I mean, it's just feminism. There's no need to use the extreme qualifier there, really, is there?
Well, it does seem to be a little bit more extreme than other places. It seems to be about on a level with, well, I wouldn't say as bad as the Spanish-speaking countries because they're insane. But
Yep.
like, yeah, it's hard to beat the Spanish-speaking countries. Oh boy, the Spanish-speaking countries. Yeah, firebombs and and stuff like that. But, Hunter, what do you think is, causing all of this stuff over in India?
like you see, in other countries like UK and US, women talk about equality. Here, women don't talk about equality. Here, women will say like, "I want equality plus women empowerment." They say something called women empowerment, that they directly want more advantages than men. They agree it to my face. In fact, many women do agree it. News channels clearly say that they want to support women empowerment. Woman empowerment is nothing. I'm a woman, give me more benefits. It's clearly shown. Like I mean, like they are hitting direct. It's not even about equality anymore. It's direct strike.
Well, I mean, I think
female supremacism.
it's a lot of men as well, though. In India, I've noticed a hell of a lot of Indian men are fully behind it.
Yeah, that's one problem as well. Like, see, men like they have some urges, and they get attracted, and they think that supporting them would help them get the woman. But the thing is, actually, they get fooled.
I don't think it's just that. I mean, I think that's a very simplistic way to look at it. I think it's just more that men want to. It's that ingrained instinct of men. They want to protect women. They want to provide for women, and I think there's definitely an element of what you're saying, but I think I would bet the majority of it is just men thinking they're doing the right thing, and just being blinded by their biases.
Yeah, and that's a lot. Actually, in depth, yeah, that's a lot to hear in depth. True. In fact, like if you like nowadays, like if a marriage is all, I will continue. Can you hear me clearly? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear
Can't
you.
really.
Human Cart said he can't hear you.
Yeah. Just try to speak slowly and loudly if that's all right.
Okay. Sure. So like yeah, it is a lot inbuilt here. Like you can see in Indians, like women will get self defense classes, but men won't get self defense. And like what happened when I was a woman just slapped me in front of the school teacher. I asked the school teacher like why has she hit me? But teacher started to laugh at me, and everyone started to laugh at me. I hit her back.
Okay, I've got to ask this. You didn't say how can she slap, did you?
No, I didn't say. I told ma'am she's beating me. I was a kid at that time. Like I didn't have this like shouting me. Ma'am, this girl is hitting me. Like I told her. Teacher was laughing at me instead of taking the complaint. Other people were also laughing at me. I got angry and hit her back. teacher started to hit me and set me out of it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fucked up, man. Like, this is just such a common thing that.
see, like in India, like teachers are still allowed to. It's like in my time they were allowed to hit students. They never hit girls. Actually, boys were only hammered nicely. But I
Yeah,
didn't get suspended. I was just sent out of the class for 1 or 2 hours. That's it. But she was the one who hit me first. People were laughing at it.
I think that this sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That a lot of situations like this, women just don't learn that it's not okay to hit a guy, or it's not okay to sexually assault a guy. They just get that message through their formative years, and then we wonder why they end up not realizing it when they're an adult.
Well, actually, later the girl was like congratulated, like, "Wow, you're quite strong." Teacher is saying to that girl, like, "You are quite strong." Instead of telling her that what you did was, they are awarded for hitting men.
Well, yeah, and that's how you end up with a woman that sort of goes into adulthood and thinks it's okay to hit her partner.
Yeah, like you guys are actually talking the same thing, but here it is. We have seen extremes. I've seen.
Yeah, it definitely does seem to be more extreme in India for sure.
We see a lot of domestic violence videos, quite open domestic violence videos from India. I have some connections with Indian MRAs, and the stuff they send out is really extreme. Like I've seen one of a woman just publicly beating on a guy with an axe handle and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think a big part of the problem is that you have this really toxic combination of sort of extreme traditionalism and then feminism, and it's just it seems to be way worse than what we have in the West, because we've sort of to a large extent gotten rid of traditionalism.
Well, feminism basically is weaponized chivalry. It is the patriarchy. It uses men's will to help women and their need to help women and make sure women are comfortable, and it basically weaponizes that against them, and it makes men into either slaves, or it makes them into bitter rejects who everyone's set upon and things like that. It's brutal in its efficiency, and they know what they're doing. It's this is how they managed to take over the women's movement, take over the shelter movement, sorry, and turn it into the mess it is now. Even though, and they do it in the name of female empowerment and equality, even though the original shelter movement was a lot better for battered women than the current shelter movement. Like, by taking it over, they've completely destroyed what it was intended to do, and they've turned it into a cash machine. And they basically
it's such a sad thing, isn't it? It's such a sad thing that you can have this movement that it's got the right idea, it's going the right way about solving a problem, and then just an ideology just comes in and fucking ruins it. It's
yeah. Well, this is what happens when people with a totalitarian mindset and the mindset that other people should be giving them stuff for free, get in and start manipulating people and twisting people against each other in order to just make money and get power and stuff like that. It's very politically minded stuff. It's
I mean, if you actually really sit and think about the amount, like the way that Aaron Pitsy was going, like, and now what's happened, if you really sit and think about the amount of human suffering that has cost, and human lives as well, because there are definitely going to be people that have died as a direct result of that. Like, it's
Silverman.
It's very easy to make. Well, I'm more thinking along the lines of sort of people that have died through domestic violence, whether it's the woman that has sort of is being an abuser and has kept beating, like for instance, kept attacking a guy and he snapped and killed her, or the guy that can't get out, and
yeah, the stats do say they back that up. Back before the shelter movement, the murder rate was equal between men and women in domestic situations. But what I meant was that this L. Silverman is a case of the ideology directly killing someone, like very, very directly. Like
I mean,
to his death.
Yeah, it is for sure, for sure. I mean, even if you just consider the amount of domestic violence in general that could have been stopped and the deaths that have resulted from that, and just the human suffering that's resulted from that as well, because I very strongly believe that if you actually address both sides of it, then not only are you going to give those two people the best chance of not continuing that behavior, you're going to stop children from experiencing it and then going on to be abusers themselves. So I mean, the amount of human suffering that could have been prevented just by going along the way that Aaron Pitsey was. Yeah, I mean, it's depressing to think about, and it really makes you angry. But yeah, it's
There's three facts related to the shelter movement which just stick in my head, which I think sum up the entire thing. The first one is that the original first volunteer at a women's shelter was a man. The second is that they used to have mentorship programs for young boys. And the third is that they don't even let young boys in the shelters anymore. Like 12, 13-year-old boys, no, you're not allowed to come here. And that means that mother stays at home with the boy just to make sure he's okay, or mother abandons the boy. So either way, violence is going to be done to the boy, and violence is possibly going to be done to the woman as well, depending on what she chooses. It's not a solution that helps even the people that it pretends to. And obviously we could go through the whole infamous case of where they shut down the men's shelter that she set up and sent her death threats, shot her dog, stuff like that. I mean, they actually shot her dog. It's kind of horrifying.
Yeah, it really is. I think the other side of things that is already talked about as well is that a lot of the women that are violent can't get access to abuser services, so they can't actually get help to stop being violent and abusive. That's another thing that's not really talked about too much.
Yeah, and it's generational too. They stopped Pizzy from sharing her data on generational violence, and they shut her down over that because they want it to be all about power and control and all about men and stuff like that. But the generational violence is how you end up with abusive men and women, and the whole this is a situation which is allowing female abusers to abuse little boys and girls who are then turning into abusers themselves because it's all they've ever known.
I also think
that is, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say I also think the family courts contribute to that, because it's very rare that they'll give custody to a father because the woman's abusive, whereas the woman just needs to say the man's abusive and she'll get custody, and that's a tactic that an abuser would use, like making a false accusation so they can get custody. So it's just, I mean, that's exacerbating it as well, big time. And I also think the same sort of generational thing applies to sexual violence as well, like in a different way, because it's generally not parents and children doing it to their children. But yeah, I think it's a very similar sort of scenario.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I didn't mention part of the story I was telling earlier about that female murderer who kept changing her story. after she got lawyers, suddenly I did mention that she started saying that he was abusing her and stuff like that, didn't I?
I
Did I
think
mention that bit?
I wasn't here for that. I don't think.
Oh, well, there's a woman who killed, well, she was a stalker and she killed the guy she was stalking, and she tried to blame it on basically everyone except herself. And one of the things she did was say he was an abuser. He was abusing her, and she tried to make herself out as being this innocent little flower. And like, it was only after she got the lawyers that she started telling that story. So I am thinking that the lawyers are actually, as a default defense, saying, tell them he abused you. I'm pretty sure that's happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Back when Man Down, the documentary, was going to be made before it got cancelled due to lack of funding, there were a whole slew of clips online. And one of the clips that really stuck with me was a woman who was going to divorce court, and the lawyer instantly told her, oh, say he's abusing the kids, say he's abusing you. You know, just trying to coach her into saying these things. And saying, you know, like, you'll get the kids instantly, you know, you'll get the maximum amount of money, he won't be able to come near you, that sort of stuff. They won't even, like, check up on it, you know, it's just like, they'll punish him without even any evidence, I think.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. It's been well documented that a lot of family lawyers will advise women, you know, say he abused you, say he hit you, say he abused the kids. It's been pretty well documented that a lot of them do that.
We actually have a lawyer teaching other lawyers to do this on tape. I mean, we've spoken about it a few times, but I've got the video, and I can share it if need be. Hopefully I can still find it in all my junk, but
yeah, if you can find that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's very, very subtle the way she starts off doing it, and it's a very long and tedious video, so you have to really, like, sit in there for the long term. But there are clips of it floating around where she basically says, file a report with us saying, you know, he's abusive. We will sit on it so that, you know, it basically has to be used by the court, and like they'll basically just use it without ever being verified or ever even really being properly submitted, something like that. I can't remember the exact legal sort of things, but it was some pretty insane stuff, and it was all orchestrated, and I don't think she's ever suffered any consequences for that. In fact, she tried to get videos of her saying that sort of thing taken down. I think she was successful because she didn't like that people were calling her out.
I found this quite interesting recently. I'm actually reading an evolutionary psychology book called Homicide. And in the first chapter, they actually do a analysis using a couple of data sets from America of homicide with it's like, so who's killing each other. And when they were looking at the partners that were killing each other, they found that actually more in both data sets. I think one data set, one more woman killed her partner than a man, and then in the other one, bear with me, I'll see if I can find it in here. Yeah, well, they both showed that slightly more women were actually killing their partners, but then 75% of wives had their cases dismissed without a trial, compared to just 20% of husbands.
Really?
Yeah. So the data is basically showing that the murder rate, and obviously, if you're going to look at the statistics after that, what you're going to see, you know, it's not going to be counted as a murder if they've been excused of it, essentially, for whatever reason. So it's basically showing that it's the courts that are that are skewing the data.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Who are the authors for that book, the homicide book you're talking about? I see a few results in Google. I'm not sure.
Martin Daly and Margot Wilson. It's really good. I've only just started reading it, but it seems really good. It's basically one of the
Try to-
first evolutionary psychology books ever.
Matthew, could you get screenshots of that into the academic channel, please? We really, really, really need to find out what their citations for that are and get.
Yeah,
that on
no
the
problem, no
citation list.
problem. I mean, I
Because
can tell
you-
you, I can
yeah.
tell you the states as well. That well, actually, I'll just take a photo and get it and screenshot it because it'll have the states and the years in there. So yeah.
Yeah, please do get the reference as well, because if you can get that reference, then you have basically just completely debunked the entire, the entire idea that men are more violent in relationships. You've
Well, it doesn't
totally
completely
knocked
debunk
over.
it, but it's certainly a very, very strong piece of evidence.
Well, thank you. Okay, get everything you can into the archive channel as promptly as you can, because we'd really like to have a look at that. Is there anything else in there that you've seen?
No. I mean, it's not like a men's rights book or anything like that. It's just a book about different motivations for murder and sort of how our evolutionary history could have motivated why and how we kill in certain circumstances.
That'd be quite
Yeah.
important for MRAs because, men do form overall the majority of homicide victims and perpetrators. So, reducing violence at the men's right. Then
I didn't get most of that, but I have a theory that it was all to do with battered women syndrome, and the police were basically like clearing them of it based on self-defense. Is that the case, Matthew?
It doesn't go into detail, but I mean, I would assume you're right on that. I would assume that a lot of women that murder their husband. I mean, you've seen cases. I mean, they can kill the husband in his sleep and still get a battered woman's defense. So, yeah, it's
that's the entire reason that bad women's syndrome was created.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that it's a legitimate thing, though. I mean, I don't doubt that if you've been abused for years, you can just snap and kill someone. I don't. If you've got no way out, I don't doubt that is a legitimate thing.
You can, but at the same time, generally you don't take an insurance policy out on them first, and generally, men do it to women as well because men snap as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying every case is right. I mean, I would imagine like if I had to guess, I'd say the majority of cases where that's been used, especially since the battered women's shelter movement, I would assume the vast majority of cases are not, battered woman syndrome. I'd imagine the vast majority are just murderers.
It is an ideologically created condition, which is purposefully designed to stop as many female murderers of men going to jail as possible. It is very much an ideological thing. I mean, look into the history of it. It's all wrapped up with things like the Duluth model and stuff like that. It's another way in which feminism is basically a corrupted version of traditionalism, where they destroy. It's basically traditionalism eating itself.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't disagree with you on any of that. To be honest, I mean, I think using the term battered woman syndrome is probably a bad idea because I mean, you just need to listen to the term to realise it's ideological, because it should be battered partner syndrome, where, and I don't necessarily think the psychology behind it's legitimate. I just think that certain people in that situation, when they can't get out, will snap and end up killing their partner.
Yeah, well, when people kill their partners, it's generally because they can't get out, and it's generally because, I don't think you could make a case that anyone who killed someone else in their sleep was suffering from that, because it's like it's the sort of thing where you grab the scissors and you turn around and you stab it through their eye because you just can't take it anymore. It's not the sort of thing where I guess you could make the case that but then it's like
it's possible in extreme circumstances. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
basically a captor, you've been held captive and you literally can't
Yeah.
get out, and yeah, it's possible, but I mean, I think it's very unlikely. I mean, you're going to be talking maybe 1 in 20 cases when that happens that's the case or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it. I mean, I've been in situations with an abusive housemate, and it's very, very. You go to some very dark places with that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, anyway, I really think that like the ones where she sets the guy on fire in his bed and stuff like that. That seems an awful lot like she's the abuser to me. I mean, in those cases, it's very, very hard to prove one way or another because, I mean, the guy's dead, so you can't even interview him.
Well, I would say you can certainly infer what happened just from the evidence. Like, has she got any long-term injuries from abuse? Have there been any reports of abuse? Has she told anyone? Is there any evidence to back up her claim that she was abused? It tends to be pretty fucking obvious.
It can be. Well, you see, have you ever seen those videos of women basically beating the shit out of themselves to lodge a false accusation? Like breaking glass things over, beating themselves up in lifts and things,
I mean, funnily enough, I actually had an argument about this very topic on YouTube because there's an MMA fighter called Greg Hardy. He used to be an American football player, and he got accused of domestic violence by his partner. And he got acquitted. She didn't turn up to testify against him. But just everybody's assumed he's guilty. He's kicked out of the league. He's now fighting in MMA. And everyone was gloating when he lost a fight and saying, "Oh, this woman beater's got what was coming to him." And I got in arguments about it in the YouTube comments, and none of them knew any of the facts of the case. They were all sort of misquoting information, just bringing up total red herrings that had absolutely nothing to do with it. But they were all convinced of his guilt.
Oh yeah, that tends to happen a lot with men who get accused of things by women. It's like that whole Supreme Court. There were witnesses saying that no, none of that happened. Her account apparently had a lot of flaws in it and stuff like that. It's there wasn't a case there, but at the same time, everyone seems to think that Kavanaugh's guilty, even though a lot of the claims are absolutely insane. Massive. Like if all of the claims were true, he would have been arrested for people trafficking and basically every one of the worst crimes there is. It's just as a teenager as well, basically.
Well, I think this is a big problem that we're going to face if we want to. I mean, we can ensure that the courts give people due process, but unfortunately, the way things go now, there's still the court of public opinion. There's still, a good chance that they're going to lose their job, or their career, their reputation. So even if they get acquitted, it's certainly the social aspect of it really needs to be addressed as well. Yeah, I mean, the reason I brought that case up, by the way, was that the only evidence was that there was a picture of her with some grazing on her back and a little bruise under her chin. And to me, that's more evidence of self-inflicted injuries because there were a woman's not going to want bruise on her face, but one underneath the chin, that's not too bad.
Well, I can't comment on that because I haven't seen them, but I mean, I have noticed from the Amber Heard fake bruise case, I've gotten into looking at the bruises to see if they're real or not. And one of the ways you can usually tell is it real bruises tend to have lots of discoloration around them. Your skin will go like yellow and stuff like that. Well, depending on your color as well. But the bruises will be basically they will have like a pool of different colors around them, and most importantly, they won't move all over your face like hers did.
Yeah, like I actually have the same thing. I can tell. Like, I mean, these were legitimate bruises, but the thing that was a red flag to me was, like I said, the bruises were, one was literally just underneath her chin. It looked. I mean, I'm not saying they definitely were self-inflicted, but I mean, certainly looking at that, it's not evidence that she was beaten up by somebody. It's evidence that she had bruises. Who knows where she got them? And like the places that they were, it certainly made me lean more towards there's a good chance that they were self-inflicted.
Mm. Well, I obviously I can't comment again, but on the Johnny Depp case, I actually can comment because if you've been keeping up with it, you may have noticed that there's photos of Elon Musk sporting a huge shiny black bruise on the side of his face, which does look very genuine. A very unhappy looking Elon, I should note, who also appears to maybe have a black eye, and walking around in public with a very smug looking Amber Heard on his arm. Well, not on his arm, but like beside him, with his kids as well. And it's very interesting to me that the people around Amber Heard keep developing sudden weird face injuries that are only really explicable if Amber's an abuser. But nobody seems to really want to say that, even though, Elon's very much a very famous guy, and if he said that Amber was abusing him as well, and took the stage with Johnny Depp to say that, and if they managed to track down any of her other lovers as well, because there was a woman who said that she was abusive to her, I think it would be all over for Amber, because that would be too many people saying that she was an abuser in public.
Well, I mean, you say that. I mean, just to play devil's advocate on injuries, they could, he could have just happened to get a bruise somewhere else. But it is very suspicious. I agree with you. But yeah, I mean,
possibly.
Just if you look at what's happened with this, I mean, it's not like there's any doubt who the abuser was in that relationship. Like the evidence is out there. Everybody that's looked into the evidence already knows, and she's still like getting away with it and getting rulings in her favor in civil court. So I mean, it's even if a few people did come out, I wouldn't be surprised if she still got away with it.
Yeah. Well, the current judge they've got is not letting her get away with it as much. He or she, I can't remember which, has basically shut down her really quite insane attempts to get every piece of information out of him that she possibly can, and basically bog him down with like he's got to produce emails and just like random emails and things like that, and just like really insane things. And
do you know if it was a female judge?
I can't remember.
Because I mean, I have noticed. I mean, this is just sort of from probably it's a bit anecdotal and from sort of personal experience of what I've seen. But I do tend to notice that female judges are a lot better at holding women to account, and they don't seem to have as much of a gender bias in sort of feeling sympathy for the woman and going along with what she says as much as male judges do.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that.
Actually, I don't know. I would. Sorry to interrupt, actually, but I have seen a reverse as well here. Like,
oh yeah, the reverse exists for sure. I mean, especially because if you're talking about a woman judge to feminist, obviously they're going to be just as bad, if not worse, than your
have you heard
male
of the
judge.
Rohtak sisters case in India? Like, hello.
No, I can't say I have. No.
Like, let me put a link for that. Like, basically what happened was, it's a fake case story and it got viral as well. women were actually going to be awarded for that, but later it turned out that it was fake. Let me share the link.
Yeah, please do.
So what were you going to say to that, human? Would you say you've noticed the same thing, or no?
Well, I was going to say it's very interesting you've noticed that, because I've heard that a few times, and I have seen female judges do that, but I have also seen female judges come down on the side of the woman so hard that they leap off the stand and hug them. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's I have seen statistical evidence saying that women have an even bigger empathy gap towards men, and they than men do, and that they have an even stronger bias towards women. So
yeah. I
I
think
find
that's
it
definitely true.
hard. Mm.
I think that's
But
definitely true.
yeah,
What I was thinking is that and like I said, this is something I've noticed. So what I was thinking as an explanation was that women go to school with, grow up around other women, so they actually understand how vicious and nasty other women can be.
yeah, that's possibly the case. I mean, I was going to say, but there's also the female boss dynamic, where female bosses are they tend to be a lot harsher than male bosses towards other women for some reason. It's possibly because it's a pecking order thing, and they will like they'll be actually quite brutal to the point where a lot of women prefer male bosses.
Yeah, that's
Hello.
certainly, it's plausible that that's certainly an element to it. I would not be surprised.
Mm. Well, it'd be interesting to see if we could get some stats on that, but I think it'd be very, very hard to get actual stats. You'd have to sit through a lot of cases and work out what the bias was, if there was any.
Yeah, that's something that's really annoying because I'm very interested in this sort of stuff, and it's hard to find any data that isn't just feminist bullshit, basically.
Oh yeah,
Any study on genders, it's almost always feminist.
yeah.
I've added the links actually. Like, I'm looking for the link which fully describes the story. I had that, now they have removed it, I think. Hello.
Sorry, what did you say?
So, like, I have added some two links for the case actually. You can see
Hang on,
I'll,
where did you put them?
in the voice discussion channel.
Mm. Thank you. That's quite good. I'll have a look at those later, because every time I go to that channel, I cut out because I can't talk while I'm in there.
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
just so I know, how much is 50 in Lakia? In what's the rough worth of that? Because he's getting like 15 Lakia compensation. I don't even know how to pronounce.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you come again with your question? Like, sorry.
Sorry, I was saying, how much compensation was that guy getting? Because it says he got 15
No, he didn't get a single penny. Like, the news article showed. I know his name is Santosh. Girl's name is hidden actually.
Mm-hmm.
No, he didn't get that money yet.
He didn't get that money.
No. I'll
Oh,
put it
that's
again here for you.
it doesn't sound like much anyway.
Yeah, it's not much. But at least like you have some, and this comes only in post by the when the case happened. It was covered by news channel in 2010 years ago. Maybe I'll try to get that video as well. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I was just listening to you.
Okay. I'll gather proofs as well. Like, definitely, if we are going to write articles, we need correct proofs. Like,
Yeah,
will
very much so. It's always embarrassing when you have to print a correction.
I think just generally it's hard to get people to take this stuff seriously. So you really need to dot your T's and cross your I's and have some good supporting evidence. Even though
very
most
much
people
so.
won't, even though most people won't look at it. I mean, there's always the one or two people that actually do care what the truth is. So
Mm. Yeah, I've got a bit of a bombshell of an article, pun intended, that's coming, and I really, really need to be very scrupulous with my sources, and I'm trying to be very careful with it. And I'm getting Blue to look over one of them, but I've got another one that's even bigger. That people are going to, yeah, it's going to get some feminists pretty angry, I think.
well, that's always good.
Yeah. It's going to be the top 10 genocidal feminists. It's all about key feminist theorists as well.
Oh, that sounds really good. You'll have to let me know when you've done that. That sounds like a good read.
Yeah. I am still looking for some more because there's loads of them, but it's hard to track them down because obviously there's an information blockade. And you can find Mary Daly fairly easily, and Sally Miller Gearhart, her quote is on the internet, even if it won't stick around on her Wikipedia page for more than 10 seconds. But the others, it's much harder to find. We actually found a Victorian one who said it, but it's so if you know of any personally. That would be very helpful because there are quite a few of them, and we want to establish a timeline, basically, of this idea being propagated through feminist theory.
I'm assuming you've already got Valerie Solanas on the list, because I mean that's always one that's very easy to source.
I'm pretty sure I do have her on there, but it's very hard to say because I'm on my phone right now. And I haven't checked on it in a little while. But I'll if you make a list of them for me, the ones you know of, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Especially if you can give me the sources for where they said it.
I mean, Valerie Solanas is a very easy one because her source is her own book, and I mean it's very widely published. So.
After that, I'm going to do an even more sketchy one, which I think is going to annoy them even more, which is like the top 10 feminist theorists who are, to put it mildly, perverts openly. You know what I mean? I'm talking about Germaine Greer and Dworkin and the horrifying things they said in their books. And who, sorry?
Judy Birchall.
Don't know that one, but could you message me the name because I can't.
I know Germaine Greer is one as well.
Yeah.
Because she wrote that book, didn't she?
Yeah, she.
Which one was that? The female eunuch? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, the other book about I can't remember now.
Do you mean the one that was basically just a photo book of pretty young boys with not very much clothes on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I had in mind too. That article is going to be very hard to write because we're going to have to put the quotes in there as images so that Google doesn't think we're running some sort of weird, let's say, scheme that the police should be involved in. It's really that bad, some of the stuff they're saying.
Richard, could you type the name in of that feminist you were talking about? That Judy, what was it? Petchel? Okay, thank you. I've not heard of her.
If you could send me a private message telling me exactly what she said, that would be very, very helpful. Thank you, Richard.
I had to go on incognito mode.
Oh, okay. All right then. See you later then. Okay, so does anyone else know any of those? Because it would help me a lot if you could just like give me a list right here and now. Madonna is actually one. I don't think many people know about this, but her book Sex had, let's say, variety. Variety is a good word. Yeah.
I can't think of any other than the ones that have already been mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I could widen it to talking about like general sort of things, like that lady who likes to joke about that time that the female comedian who has this whole stand-up routine about the time she raped a guy
Well, I mean,
who
she
was
is a
unconscious.
feminist.
I
I think
she's a popular feminist comedian.
if you're going to widen it, I mean, you could widen it to sort of sexual violence in general. Then you could include Mary Koss.
Oh yeah, Mary Koss would be more of a article in of herself, because that train wreck really needs a thorough going over, I think.
Joe Brand as well.
Jo Brand?
Yeah.
Really?
She's like she bashes men a lot in her stand-up act. So.
See, I don't have a problem with that, because I feel like with her, I feel like it's more just sort of, it's not men are evil, it's just sort of, just a general sort of, I think they're just general jokes. I don't think she's a man hater or anything, but, maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, she did make a joke about Nigel Farage, like a long time ago. That got her in trouble.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, she did make a couple of sort of not the greatest jokes, but yeah, like, I don't think I think they were it's just a bit of a bit of I don't know, you call it dark humor, but I wouldn't. I personally, I don't have
black humor.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with her.
To be honest, I would be a lot more on board with all these man-hating comedians if we were allowed to have woman-hating comedians as well, because equality and all that. And also, if you're immune to criticism, then you're also immune to growth, and you're immune to bettering yourself and stuff like that.
I mean, I would say there kind of is. I mean, there's I wouldn't class her as a man-hating comedian. I mean, but I'd say the male equivalent would be that Australian comedian that's turned into a prick. Shit, what's his name now? The guy that had that expose done on him by.
Reese?
I'm blanking on all of the names at the moment, but
what's it? Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries, thanks, Richard. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, I mean, he told a lot of really sort of off-color jokes about women.
Well,
okay, I got the articles in Wikipedia for you. Julie Birchall and Julie Bindel. So they have like an extensive write-up about them.
This article's getting a little bit broad for my taste at the moment, because I was thinking of keeping some feminist theorists who were, well, for lack of a better term, nonces. But it's.
I mean, I think you'd struggle to find 10.
I think I'd struggle to find them, but I don't think that that would be from them lacking existence, personally, because there seems to be an entire class of feminist theory related to this particular subject.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I think maybe just ones that aren't open or ones that haven't said anything about it. You're probably right, because I mean, I think that there's definitely an element.
Oh no, I mean open ones.
Oh, okay. Because I mean, I was just going to say, I think there's definitely an element of when you have a movement like this that excuses a hell of a lot of female wrongdoing, and sort of women don't do that kind of thing, then it's going to be a breed. It's going to attract that sort of person.
Well, Greer and Dworkin are definite examples of this happening, and I bet if I looked through Mary Daly's stuff, I'd probably find something fairly similar. I think that it's there. I think it's in the text. I just don't think that anyone's really talking about it, because you'll get Guardian articles that will call Dworkin's work challenging and brave, and if you know what she's actually said, then you can read through articles like that and see them skipping over those bits of the book.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Well, I was just going to suggest, I know this isn't a feminist theorist, this is sort of a pop culture feminist, but Lena Dunham would be a good example.
Lena Dunham?
Yeah, like, I mean, she wrote in her book that she put stones in her sister's vagina and did some other weird sexually abusive shit to her younger sister, so she'd certainly be a good example of a very prominent feminist that's done some very abusive shit.
Man, that's weird. Stones. Okay.
This was a baby sister as well. I think the sister would have been about fucking 1 at the time or something.
Good grief. Okay, well, yeah, we kind of need to make a list of those, I think. I mean, I am mostly interested in the feminist theorists because I don't want them really just like unique examples of them being creepy or perverted or raping someone. I kind of want them advocating, I don't want them to do it, but I want to find more examples of them advocating for it to see if they are advocating for it, rather, because I'm pretty sure they are, but I'm trying to confirm or deny this theory that it's a firm undercurrent of the movement, because I think that it is there to be discovered, because 2 major founding mothers of the modern feminist movement being like that and openly advocating for it and being proud of it and so on and so forth, that makes me think there's a lot more of it, especially with how many of these genocidal feminists we've been finding, because I used to think it was only Mary Daly and Sally Miller Gerhardt who were saying that, but it turns out that they've been saying it since the very beginning, and there's loads of them. It's just a case of tracking them down, because obviously I can't read all of this massive backlog of absolutely insane gibberish they've been spouting just to write one article.
I certainly think you could use some of these pop culture examples just because they've made it open. I mean, like, for instance, Lena Dunham wrote about it in a book. The pig-faced comedian that you mentioned earlier, she talked about it openly. And women are still celebrated within the feminist movement as sort of icons. So, I mean, you could certainly make the case that it's something that's accepted within the movement based on those.
We could do a top 10 feminist icons who are horrifyingly predisposed to children and animals, if that's a polite way of putting it. But okay, so could you just DM me that name as well, because I'm totally going to forget it. It's going to get lost in the chat.
Who are you talking to, sorry?
You. If you could DM me that name. Lena Dunham? In fact, if you could link me to a video of her saying it, then that would be even better.
I'm not sure whether she's spoken about it in a video. She wrote about it in her book, so you'd have to maybe try and find the excerpt from her book. But I mean, if you Google if you put into, I'll type you what to Google basically, and you should be able to find it.
Oh, all right, please do. Thank you. That would be helpful. Okay, so let's see. It is now nearly 7 o'clock. How are we all doing for time? Are we all sort of
I'm fine to carry on.
okay then? Okay. So we've talked about things horrifying and depraved. Where do we go from here? What's our, are there any more articles that we could cook up talking about different things from the dark underbelly of feminism or culture or whatever? Or are there, I mean, they've already advocated for genocide and the legalization of some quite horrifying things. So I'm not really sure where we could go from there. It's kind of, if you're making a third article, what do you even put in there?
I would say a very good one is feminists that have obstructed human rights for men.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. That is one actually that I've been bringing up on Twitter a bit recently. Is there Hunter will know about this probably. When the India wanted an equal rape law, and the feminists came in and said no. And they've said okay, and they basically just reprinted the previous law they had in different language. I mean, I don't know how many people here know about that, but they were going to make it so that legally speaking, a woman could be charged with rape, and then the feminists were like, no, the men will, they'll use it as an excuse to, they'll pretend that, they were raped so as to not go to prison. And of course, that's absolute bullshit, because a rapist would just say it was consensual. Pardon me. Yeah, the rapist would just say it was consensual. They don't need some sort of weird, no, you raped me argument. It's which doesn't even make, it wouldn't even make sense in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of examples from the West as well. I mean, you could use the example of the WHO blocking shared custody law. You could use the example of Mary Pecos helping to write the rape laws in America. There are multiple examples of feminists advocating against or directly blocking changes to the law or changes to policy that would make things more equal.
Yeah, there's a bunch in the UK that have happened. And it's amazing that people aren't really noticing this, because they're saying it very, very openly. I mean, we've got an article called Everything's Fun and Games Until Someone Gets Equality, or something similar like that, and which goes over them trying to tear down a misandry law while keeping a misogyny law.
Yeah, that's another fine example, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the recent domestic abuse bill in the UK, where they took it over and they threw out the male domestic violence charities and had Julie Bindel running it. And I've heard her described as a champion of women's rights for doing stuff like that, when actually what she's doing is she's covering up for female abusers. It's possibly like herself. I mean, I shouldn't imagine there's many people associated with that who, aren't in favor of women just beating on men.
I mean, another good example would be trying to bring in laws to say that women's prisons should be abolished, or that women should get much lighter sentences. Yeah,
these are all good examples. If you've got an article about the WHO getting in the way of shared custody, that would be great, because I've never found a source on that.
I actually thought the link, because I have actually got a couple of links about that. I thought I'd found it on your site, but maybe not.
Maybe. I mean, it might be something that I put on there ages and ages and ages ago and forgot about. But if you could give me the links, I'll put them on the citation list. The citation list is very new, and it's an attempt to basically, well, it was originally an attempt just to centralize the citations on the website and get the citations off of the Discord that we were using for our own personal use. But it's actually turned into the most popular page on the site.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Bar yeah.
I've used it a few times.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, that's really what it's for now. You know, it was well, it was for the Discord use, really. But yeah, I mean, we found some pretty insane stuff in there, like the. Oh, hello, Hunter. Are you back?
No, I was here and actually I was listening to you. Like I have shared some articles as well. You were asking regarding the controversial cases, right? I have put one Neha Dupia's controversial case. Like it's
Oh,
accepted.
you just cut out then.
Hello,
I can hear
can you
you
hear me?
now, but you cut out halfway through what you were saying there.
Okay, so let me go through you again. So Neha Dupia is like conducting a reality TV show and named as Roadies, in which like she has clearly like I've added the blogs and you can even see the show clearly like how she supports like domestic violence towards, but if the same happens, she reacts it in a different way. Even and she still argues on that, accepting that she is right. So violence against women is a definitely a big thing, but violence against men, oh, it's a joke.
Is
A
there
statement.
any indication that she's an abuser herself? Because I mean, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, that a lot of abusive women are
Definitely.
very attracted to feminism because it gives them a way of excusing their behavior and turning themselves into the innocent party.
Yeah, she has her own cases as well. Yep.
If
And
you look
again,
at if you look at the UK, we've got a lot of politicians that have female politicians that were champions of domestic violence that turned out to be abusers. Funnily enough, one of them actually called Champion, Sarah Champion.
Yeah, maybe we should do a list of those.
Yeah, we're coming up with some a lot of good lists to do here, eh?
Yeah. Hey, Matthew, if you wanted to make one of these lists, it would be very helpful. I mean, we're always asking for new articles from people because I honestly can't write them all. I mean, it's a huge draw on my time when I write an article. I basically have to dedicate a few days to it, like basically a day's worth of research and stuff like that, and like writing it and editing it and all that sort of stuff. And even then, I often don't get an article out the other end because it might turn out that I was wrong about something critical and I have to can the whole thing or something like that.
I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it. The only problem is at the moment I've got a little bit of backlog of stuff to do because somebody's asked me to narrate an audiobook for them, so I've got to do that. But yeah, like
Oh,
I mean,
really?
if you can wait till after I've done that, then I wouldn't mind doing it. Because yeah, like I'm the same as you. I put a lot of time and effort in if I'm going to write something.
I mean, I've been focusing very much on the books at the moment because the books I can subtly weave in narratives where, like talking about this sort of stuff, although it's very, very, very difficult to do it without coming over as preachy. Like you've got to be very careful to not be preachy, especially on this subject, because we'd get absolutely wrecked. Well, I'd get absolutely wrecked rather, and I'd get negative reviews and things like that. So I've got to be incredibly careful about what I say. Oh, what's the audiobook, by the way, Matthew?
It's a book that a friend of mine wrote. I actually can't even remember the name of it at the moment, but yeah, he's asked me to do it. So I haven't even had a chance to have a look at it because he asked me to do it over Christmas, and I was working like flat out over Christmas, so I was going to have a look at it pretty soon and make a start on that.
Oh, cool. Have you got a good mic for it?
I'm going to use the one I'm using now. It seems to be pretty decent.
Okay. All right then. So let's see. What other subjects could we talk about? Could keep going on about articles, but
Well, I mean, there's a limitless source of feminist
Mm.
hypocrisy to do articles about, eh?
Yeah, there is. I kind of want to do one doing a breakdown of how they screw around with Wikipedia, but like it's an entire labyrinth of trying to explain how they manipulate people on there.
I think I think a very good one would be top 10 ways that feminists have harmed women.
Oh yeah, that would be very good. Yeah, the shelter movement thing would be quite a prominent part of that.
Yeah, and
That
again,
might
you
even
could. I
be.
mean, like I always think anything that
Mm.
applies to that also applies to sexual violence as well. So I think that's another one you could do. Yeah, but I think there's tons.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen feminist billboards that seem designed more to just scare women. Like they look like they're designed to scare women and make them afraid of men.
Absolutely. I mean, that would definitely be in there for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Hello.
hello, Hunter.
Yeah.
Thanks for the links.
Yeah, actually, I was also thinking, like, why not go the other way around? Like, find ways to like make lives of men better. Many of the men are like without financial income, who are suffering a lot, are homeless. Like, what can we do to make their lives better?
I mean, personally, I think that's a really hard problem to solve. Because if you're talking about homeless guys, I think the root cause is not being able to get therapy, not being able to get support services when they've experienced something traumatic, or the family court system. So you're talking about solving some very big problems before they. I think it's more stopping them getting to that point. Because I think a lot of people that are on the street, it's not that they can't, it's not that there's nowhere available for them to live or no money available for them. It's that they've got addicted to alcohol or drugs and they just ended up on the street.
Some of them, a lot of them, it's relationships.
Yeah, that
like
too.
You get people who've been divorced, who've been abused, things like that. There's mentally ill people who are just out there because they don't know how to get help and they don't even know what help would look like, and they don't know how to fend for themselves, really. There's people out there because usually when it's financial reasons, it's often like a couple who are out. But like if it's a man on his own, like an older man on his own, it's generally, I think, divorce and things like that. Because I used to know one who was on the streets because of an abusive divorce.
I would guess that. I mean, if I was pushed, I would say that a massive proportion, maybe like 60-70%, are people that are abused as children in various ways and ended up on drugs, and they're just and that's why they're on the street. That's what I would say is the root cause.
A lot of them are. I mean, I'm not even going to go into giving stats on that because I don't think they exist. I do know that a lot are there because of relationships, purely because we do have some stats on that. But it's very, very hard to get stats when it comes to homelessness. All we really know is that somewhere in the region of 70 to 90% of them are male. And I would say 90% are male because that's how many die on the streets. And it really depends on how you count them. If you count hidden homeless, then the number of female homeless goes up a bit, and you end up with like 60% male, 70% male. But if you actually look at the ones who are properly homeless and who are properly on the street and don't have a roof or a bed or anything, then nearly all of them are male. I mean, if you go around any major city, it's obvious right away. Like it's just man, just all along the gutters, and you really don't see that many women.
Yeah, I think in my entire life I've maybe seen 2 or 3 homeless women.
Yeah. I have seen somewhere in the region of 4 or 5, I think. Maybe, like just simply because I used to go to a place where there are a lot of homeless people, but it is in the region you were talking about. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5 as roughly the sort of number of homeless people that I've seen. I'm just thinking through the ones I have seen. It's very hard to tell which ones are actually homeless as well, because the number of fake homeless people who are women is quite large. Like, you will see women begging with like very fancy handbags and things like that, and they'll be like spare change, that sort of thing. But well, they tend to go actually for a more emotional approach. It's usually men who say spare change. Like they'll be like almost on their knees begging for money. But you talk to people and you find out that they're going back to a flat of an evening or something like that. A lot of them, which doesn't mean that they're not badly off in their own way, but it makes it more likely that they're begging because it's an easy way to get a lot of money without working. Because you can get quite a bit of money begging, especially if you're female. But for a homeless person, that amount of money is eaten up very, very quickly with things like food and so on, because if you want a cooked meal, you really have to go to like a takeaway or a restaurant, and that's pretty expensive, especially if you want to eat healthily. And eating healthily is something that the homeless don't often do. Like kebabs and things like that are basically what they eat. People will come along and they'll give them a McDonald's, they'll give them a bag of chips from the fish and chip shop, and that'll be their dinner. They get, this why they have such bad skin a lot of the times, and such such bad health is that they eat crap, they sleep in the cold, and they smoke way too much, they drink way too much, because what else is there to do? And what else is there to take the edge off? I mean, a lot of people really blame them for drinking and smoking and taking drugs, but I honestly don't think we should, because I think those are just symptoms of a really, really, really bad, like, they're really awful situation.
Personally, like I said, I think that the drinking and the drugs are generally the root cause of homelessness. I mean, this is the thing. Like, so what Hunter said, I think just in general is a good point, that we should be trying to focus on ways we can help. But I think at least in the West, homelessness. Well, say the West. Just use the UK as an example. I don't know so much about other countries, but in the UK, there are systems in place to help these people. It's not that there's no way for them to get off the streets. It's that they're in a situation where they just don't care. And these homeless shelters, they're not going to help them if they're taking drugs and they're drinking themselves stupid every night. So the reason that it's not that the help's not there. It's just that they're not in a place to get the help, because they've already been allowed to slip through the cracks and get into that place where it's hard to get to. It's hard to give them help. Or maybe the shelter's not been so fussy about helping drug users and alcoholics, and maybe those shelters having mental health services in place would be a way around that. But it's certainly not that the help's not there at all.
Well, I don't think that drug use and drinking and so on is a major cause of being homeless. I think it's something you develop when you're on the street. I mean, I think that you can become homeless because you're a drug user and you're drinking and all that sort of stuff, and that is a very legitimate path to being homeless. But I do think that most of the people who are on the streets who fall into drinking, drugs and that sort of stuff do so because it takes the edge off, and because it's part of the culture on the streets, and because it's like you end up you need something to stop you feeling so bad, and so you turn to the only things you have that can numb that. And
I mean, I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be pretty hard to prove it one way or the other, eh?
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying you could be right, but I'm pretty confident in my theory. I'm pretty sure you sound pretty confident in yours, so
mm.
yeah, we
Well,
might
it's
have
just
to.
the impression I get. I mean, relationship is also because I've seen stats saying relationship breakdown is the major reason that men end up on the streets, like divorces, abuse, that sort of thing. But obviously, I can't give you hard proof on this. But yeah, like I mean, I will tell you that a lot of them have a history of being in and out of prison. Some of them like tried to make money as drug dealers and then ended up in prison, and then got thrown out again and ended up even in worse trouble and stuff like that. And there's a whole like there's a whole different. I think every homeless person's story is different, but
Yeah, I mean, it could be the case that we're both right, and it's. I mean, I would imagine that certainly there's an element of both anyway, but it could be the case that it's right down the middle, and we've both got a good point.
Yeah, I mean, alcoholism and stuff like that can be the grease that speeds up an inevitable decline towards the streets if you're in just serious financial trouble and stuff like that. I mean, gambling can put you there. That's a major thing. I mean, I'm generally for things being, legal if they don't hurt people, but gambling is not one of those things. It's
Well, I mean, I don't think
one of the most destructive things I've ever seen.
I don't think you can outright ban stuff like that though, because I
Yeah.
mean, there's loads of things like that where it's not massively detrimental to most people, but then there's going to be a small percentage of people that it really is damaging to them. So it's hard to say. Just I'm not a fan of banning anything like that, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about gambling over a table with your friends. I'm talking about casinos and apps that are pay to win and stuff like that, where you've got these apps that are designed to be addictive, and I mean, I'm especially talking about things like casinos. It's those things which are basically exist to ruin people's lives, and they don't have any other function. I don't think those should really exist, because you can.
I could certainly see an argument for regulating them better, at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no way that they should be allowed to have a machine in the casino which allows you to remortgage your house. Like that's an actual thing in Las Vegas. Like you can get a mortgage on your house, or you can get a loan from these machines just on the casino floor.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad idea.
Predatory.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, anyway. Hello. Did you have something to say?
Oh, I was just checking, like, so how about helping young boys? Like, how can they be better in life? Like, how can we do such things that tomorrow, like, the boys coming up are like strong, are like able to better, somewhere fall into a pit, like how you're seeing bad pits, like how you're seeing people in it. How can you avoid them from starting?
I didn't get a lot of that, but three things I think would help boys a lot is gender blind marking in schools, so that teachers can't give preferential treatment to the girls or anyone. Second would be if we could basically, oh, what was it? Oh yeah, stop boys from being abused in the media. That would be another good one. And a third one would be to take boys seriously when they say that girls are abusing them and women.
I
Do
would
you
add
have any
to that.
ideas?
I would add to that I think teaching boys not to accept certain treatment from women, because I think it's certainly ingrained into the culture that certain abusive behaviours are just acceptable when they're done by a woman. You know, like isolating boys from their friends, that sort of thing. Just generally being controlling. You know, like a lot of people will just make a joke and say, "Oh, you know, he's under the thumb," and I think in a lot of shows they show borderline abusive behaviour or straight up abusive behaviour is just something that's normal when a woman does it in a relationship. But yeah, I just think in general, just teaching boys how to vet women for character and how to spot abusive women and just not to put up with abuse in relationships. I think that's a very important one.
Yeah, there's a lot of incredibly abusive relationships on TV that the men are just supposed to take and are just supposed to be funny. One I was actually going to mention and forgot to was stripping the feminism out of schools completely and replacing it with equality, actual equality.
That's starting already. Laura Bates went to a school, and the kids were red-pilled already, and she was starting to get worried.
Sorry, what was that, Richard? They were red-pilled already?
Yeah, the younger generation are getting red-pilled about feminism.
That's awesome. It's probably because of them seeing it in schools. So it would be very interesting. The girls as well, because I got the impression that the girls were going along with it.
No, it was just the boys that was asking her questions, and she got uncomfortable. So she wrote a book and an article about it. So
yeah, I mean, it may have been that some girls did as well. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed that whenever there's pushback against feminism, they'll always totally ignore the female element of that pushback because they don't want to admit that there are also women that are rejecting feminism and women that are arguing against it.
Oh yeah, they've always done that. The anti-suffragettes were considered brainwashed, even though they basically didn't want to be treated the way men were. And
because
they were worried that was going to happen.
They had to make amendments to the vote, so the women didn't want to. Women didn't want the vote because they had to go to war. So
that was part of it later on, but the earlier on, back when men didn't have the vote either, it was also because they didn't want to be forced to work, like digging trenches in the streets and things like that. Because they thought that
75% of women didn't want the vote either. So
yeah, which is very interesting, isn't it? Because it's like these upper class women fought for it just for themselves and didn't want other women to really have the vote, and then an entirely male parliament gives it to them.
Also, men got the vote in 1918, and women got the vote in 1914. So,
are you sure? Because from what I hear, men and women got the vote in 1918, but not all women got the vote. At least in the UK, it depends on the country.
That's what I looked up a few weeks back. So.
Okay, I mean, if you could tell us where you found that, that'd be interesting.
It's like on the anniversary, like a few years ago. It was like 100 years back in 2018. It was like 100 years since men got the vote, but it wasn't celebrated. So.
Okay, I mean, I saw there were pins celebrating women getting the vote in 1918 then, but.
Yeah, because when most men didn't get the vote in World War One, so most men died, but not having the vote.
My understanding is that all men and all women got the votes at roughly the same time.
Okay, so it
roughly.
was just the. So I think my guess is just the upper class got the vote.
Well, the way I understand it is the top 10% of men were given the vote because they owned property and stuff like that. But the vote was really for the family. The man was the one who's
hang
deciding
on a
it,
sec. Just to correct you on
Hmm.
that, it wasn't top 10% of men. It was actually top 10% of society, which included women. But then when they got married, it became a single vote
I
Okay.
see.
for the household.
I might be
So-
wrong on the vote then. Sorry.
All right then. So they basically did have the vote. I have
Well,
heard
yeah,
of
yeah,
women
but
voting
that was only
before that.
upper class women. My understanding of the way it went was but it was basically the top. You're right, sort of the top 10% of the society say had the vote. But obviously, then when the woman got married, she was, then it was the household vote, and the man was considered the head of the household. So technically, he had the vote. Although I'm sure the woman would have had some influence over the way her husband voted. Then,
Oh yeah, absolutely. People
then
forget about that bit.
then men challenged the vote in court, and this was only men that had been to war, challenged the vote on the basis that they couldn't be expected to fight for a country in which they had no say. They won the vote for men of fighting age with the legal challenge. So it still wasn't all men that could vote, but it was the majority of men then could vote because they were expected
And some women.
yeah, I imagine military women as well. I'm not sure if that was the case.
No,
I
not
know-
military women. Women over a certain age, like 38
everyday,
or something.
everyday women.
I don't think so. Maybe you're right on that. I think I know military. I don't know if military women in the UK got the vote, although I would assume they did. But I know that
I
that
don't
was the
think there
case
really
in.
were many.
I know that was the case in Canada. I know that women that had done sort of, even if it was just the medical side of things in the military, they got the vote. I think that was probably the case in the UK. But then after that, then there was universal suffrage where just everybody got the vote. So there was a certain proportion of men that got the votes that didn't have it, and then all women. That's my understanding of it,
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay.
No,
Thanks anyway.
there's the way I understand it is in 1918, all men got the vote, and most women got the vote. Like over a certain age, they all got the vote. And then a couple of years later, they changed it so everyone got the vote. But that's just me, my memory of it from ages ago.
Well, I know there was 50 years
Yeah.
between that challenge by military men. There was 50 years between then and universal suffrage when everybody got the vote.
Well, hard to say then. It might have just been men who served in the military who got the vote at that point then. But I know that all men got the vote in 1918 and a lot of women got the vote then. I mean, at least that's what I remember. But
I think that would have been universal suffrage, but I thought that happened late in 1918. I'm bad with dates, though, so...
No, universal suffrage did it was slightly later, maybe 1930 or something, maybe 1920.
1932?
Somewhere around that region, yeah. It was only a few years later. And I mean, to be honest, it would be quite difficult to organize a system back then that excluded some people and included others when you could just include all adults. It'd be a whole lot easier to do that. So that might have had some bearing on why they did that. But anyway, does anyone else have any other topics they want to talk about? Because I think I have to go quite soon because I have to cook dinner.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
All right. Well, this has been a very good one. It's been very interesting. Thank you, everyone. And Hunter's gone, but thank you, Hunter, if you ever hear this. We'll be back next week then at 5 p.m. UK time, as per normal. We may think about moving the live stream to another day if there's a day that suits everyone. But I realize that it's very, very difficult for everyone to schedule around a single time slot. So just let me know what you think the idea of this was eventually to end up with doing a live stream every single night. But obviously that's going to be difficult to manage, and we can't do it at this stage. But yeah, if people want to think about setting up like a chat on another date that maybe isn't recorded, then that's fine too, and maybe we can sort something out then.
Sure. Can you
all right then.
just remind me what was it you wanted me to do? I know you wanted me to put some screenshots of that book I was talking about and and the sources. What was the other thing? I'm sure there was something else you asked me to do.
I asked you to. Well, I was asking if you could make an article about one of these listings. I also asked you if you could give me a bunch of names of various awful people. And I asked you to get the sources from that book which show that women are being let off for killing their husbands.
Yeah, sure. I can definitely do that straight away. For sure.
Yeah.
It was great catching up with you again. Anyway, like it's nice to actually be able to make one of the live chats for a change.
Yeah, it's nice to see you too. I mean, we haven't had you around for a while, have we?
Oh no, I know. I'm sure you've missed me greatly. Yeah, it was good catching up with you again, man.
All right then.
It was nice to meet you, Richard. Oh, he's gone.
All right then. Well, good night, everyone, and see you next week.
Yep, catch you later, man.